Rolling. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly live stream. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about how to use would to talk about the future. So I've said the future here for this lesson because we're going to cover many different ways to use would to imagine the future, to imagine the present. Also, we're going to talk about using it to make requests and offers and invitations and to express preferences. Finally, we're also going to talk about the differences between would and will in conditional sentences, something that I often see learners struggle with. We have so much to do today, so we're going to start in about 2 minutes. While we wait for other people to join, though, if you are in the chat now, please make sure to send a message, say hello to everyone in the chat, and also please make sure to like this video, hit the like button, and share the video so other people can find today's lesson. First announcement, this banner here shows this, as we have every week, free PDF cheat sheets from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook. These are a few I will show you later. You can use these vocabulary words and expressions with today's grammar points for sure. So this is a nice way to practice, I think. So check those out if you have not already. They are free. You just need to log in with your EnglishClass101.com account. And then the other point, I think Facebook is getting up now. Is Facebook okay? Is it rolling? Oh, Facebook is a little bit interesting today. But in the meantime, we'll wait like another minute or so while we get Facebook rolling. And then I wanted to mention, I'll show you, this picture will appear in a minute. Our control desk is fixing some things. But I mention every once in a while our weekly Q&A series. The weekly Q&A series is a chance for you to send your English and culture related questions to me, really. So this series is called Ask Alicia, and this is a screenshot from Ask Alicia. So these are questions that come from you, and I try to answer them in just a few short minutes, really. So these are for like your small little questions, not such big grammar questions always. But if you want to participate in this, if you want to send a question to this, you can find the link to the official submission page at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. All right, we're working on a technical issue right now on our Facebook stream, so hopefully we'll be able to get rolling in just a minute. I'm not sure. There's a small Facebook problem. Apologies. But if you missed it, today we're talking about how to use would to talk about the future. So I guess for now, Facebook's being a little bit tricky today. Yeah? So, very mysterious. So I'm going to start off with our first point for today. Our first item for today's lesson is conditionals. Conditionals. And I'm going to talk about conditionals with questions. So a conditional is a sentence that has that if something something, then something something pattern, or you can switch it as well. So I want to start today's lesson by talking about these conditionals. So first I want to talk about conditionals with statements. So we'll zoom in a little bit. Our control desk is busy trying to fix some things right now. So conditionals with statements, first of all. When we make a conditional with a statement, we have a pattern like if our subject were something something, and then we follow it with subject would or wouldn't plus the infinitive form of the verb. So for today's lesson, I'm going to focus on the second conditional. So maybe some of you know like first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, and so on. For today's lesson, I'm going to focus on the second conditional, which uses would to make a positive statement and wouldn't to make a negative statement. So when you make a second conditional type sentence, you're describing an unreal situation in the present, so something that is not true now, And it's something that's unlikely. So that means there's a low chance of that thing happening. So something that's unreal and that is unlikely is a second conditional statement. Also, another point here is if you use this conditional sentence, one big question, this says were. If subject were something, something. If subject were something, something. Yeah, hi YouTube, I just saw the chat for the first time. We're having some trouble with Facebook still. If subject were. So when you make a second conditional sentence using would, make sure you use were here. Lots of learners ask, like, what's the difference between if I was and if I were? The difference, I've talked about a few times in Ask Alicia before. The difference is if I was is a simple past tense statement. So we want to make a statement about the past. So for example, if I was noisy last night, I apologize. That means I don't know if I was noisy or not, but if I was, I apologize. So that means there's a chance in the past that thing happened. However, when you use if I were or if subject were, it's referring to the present situation now. It's an unreal situation now in the present. So if I were a teacher, I would teach math, for example. That sentence means I am not a teacher. It is not like a possible situation now, but in that situation, I would teach math. So those sentences, if I were and if I was, are actually often like mixed up by native speakers. But if you want to make sure to always be correct, when you're making a second conditional sentence and you're using this if I were or if he were pattern, make sure to use were. So let's take a look at some example sentences that use this. I'll keep reading because our control desk is still busy trying to fix the Facebook issue. So I will read our example sentences with this point. First, if I were you, I would study every day. If I were you, I would study every day. So here, as I've talked about, we use this were here. So if I were you, this is correct for a second conditional pattern. If I were you, so I'm not you, I would study every day. So after our would, we follow with the infinitive form of the verb. If I were you, I would study every day. Let's look at another example. If he had more free time, he wouldn't be so stressed out. If he had more free time, he wouldn't be so stressed out. So this second conditional pattern uses a different verb. When you're using the second conditional pattern and you're not using this were here, use the past tense, simple past tense form of the verb. So in this case, if he had. So had is the simple past tense form of have. If he had more free time, so more meaning more than he does now, if he had more free time, he wouldn't. So wouldn't is the reduced form of would not. He wouldn't be so stressed out. He wouldn't be so stressed out. So this is a negative sentence here. So in this case, this means this person in the sentence does not have very much time and therefore now is stressed out. So again, we're imagining a present unreal situation. So if he had more free time, he wouldn't be so stressed out. Okay, one more example here. If we won the lottery, we would buy a house. If we won the lottery, we would buy a house. So lottery is a game of chance. You can buy a ticket in the USA and there will be numbers that are announced for that ticket. If your ticket's numbers match the winning numbers, you can win money or other prizes. So here, won is my verb. I use the simple past tense form. So if subject here is we, if we won the lottery, so past tense, if we won the lottery in this unlikely present situation, we would buy a house. So this part expresses the planned action. If this is true, this is what we want to do. We would buy a house. So this is second conditional statements. Second conditional statement. So there are some examples coming in on YouTube. If I had a Lamborghini, I would be very happy. Very nice, Ruska. Very nice. Good one. Good one. Other ones, I don't see yet any other ones. Someone repeated, if he had more time, he wouldn't be so stressed out. Yeah, nice one. Pasta says, if I won the lottery, I would donate that amount to the street. Wow, that's super nice. That's cool. Great, great, great. Okay, so let's continue on to the next point. This is another pattern for statements that uses would and wouldn't, and that might be a little bit challenging to understand. So this is a subject with would or wouldn't. Be, so we include the verb be here, and then an adjective, So remember, an adjective is a word that describes a noun. So like beautiful, or expensive, or fun, or exciting. These are adjectives. So let's look at a couple of examples to explain this point. So let's imagine a conversation between two people. So person A says, why don't we go to Hawaii next month? Why don't we go to Hawaii next month? And person B says, that would be expensive. That would be expensive. So here in part B, person B's statement, that thing, this idea, like going to Hawaii, is what that refers to. That idea would be expensive. So it's like saying, if we did that, it would be expensive. You can imagine this is like a response to the suggestion. So this pattern is something we often use to respond to ideas, to suggestions, to advice, and so on. Okay, so the next example here is, do you want to go window shopping, from person A? Do you want to go window shopping? And again, person B responds with that would idea. So that would be fun. That would be fun. So again, that refers to the previous sentence. In this case, a suggestion. Do you want to go window shopping? An invitation. So that would, that activity would be, and then my adjective is fun. That would be fun. Okay, so this is how we use it for this pattern. I'll finish up here quickly with questions. When we make questions with second conditional, we use that if pattern. So if-then pattern I talked about before. So here, we use a WH question, so that means who, what, where, when, and so on, plus would, then our subject, your extra information, and then we have some kind of if statement. So the basic pattern, we've talked about this a few times before, is when you're making these kinds of sentences and these kinds of questions, we use an if clause plus a main clause. So your if clause is the part of the sentence that includes the word if. So we practice this up here. If I were you, if he had more free time, if we won the lottery. These parts are if clauses. They're the parts of the sentence that use if. And then there's the main clause. So the main clause has this information in it, the result. There's some kind of result in the main clause. So we can use both if clause and main clause in either position. You can change the position, just depends on the focus of your sentence. Also, please keep in mind, one point, many learners miss this. Make sure your would is in the main clause. We do not use this in the if clause. So this is one key point here. Do not use would, don't use modal verbs in general in the if clause. Please be careful of that. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of examples and then we'll take a quick break. So, if you won the lottery, what would you buy? If you won the lottery, what would you buy? So here's my if clause. If you won the lottery, my if clause is here in this case. So I've started that here. What would you buy? So what is my WH question word? Would follows it. My subject is you. And then my verb here. What would you buy? What would you buy? One more. Where would you live? If you could live anywhere. So here I've swapped it again. My WH question is first. Where would you live if you could live anywhere? If you could live anywhere. So this could means if it were possible to live anywhere. If it were possible to live anywhere. So one more small point here for those of you who like to focus on your punctuation. This point, it's very hard to see right now, but there's a comma after this if clause here. So when your sentence begins with an if clause, follow the if clause with a comma. So it's nice to include a comma after an if clause. So an if clause can be what's called an introductory clause. The if clause is introducing some kind of information that we need to understand the main clause. So if clause, comma, main clause. However, if you use this pattern, main clause first plus if clause, as I've done down here, you don't need to put a comma after the main clause. So only if your if clause is at the beginning of the sentence. So another point for those of you interested in punctuation. Okie dokie. So that is part 1 for today's lesson. And I think we're still having a little bit of Facebook trouble, but I think YouTube is okay, which is good. And Instagram is okay too. Hi there. So we'll take one quick break. I think I will be able to show on the second camera. Okay, cool. So if you have not already, please make sure to check out the link below the video on YouTube. And I guess there's no Facebook for today. Instagram, if you're watching, please check the link on our YouTube channel on this live lesson. So I've chosen a couple of PDFs I don't usually show. This one, oops, sorry, that's not the one I wanted to show you. I've picked out a few I thought would be useful for today's grammar. First is talking online. On the back of this are some expressions you can use for conversation online. So on the, in the comment section, for example, some of you write these sorts of comments. These are a few expressions you can use online or in emails with your coworkers or with friends, family, and so on. So these might be some good vocabulary words or good situations to practice today's grammar in. Another one is planning your time. So today's grammar point is great for making schedules. Really good for making schedules. So this is some vocabulary for like days, weeks, months of the year, and so on. So you can have a look at these. And of course, other stuff as well. There's a lot more stuff from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube. Okay, cool. So I think we'll continue on in today's lesson. So I think Facebook is not going to be able to join us this week. Oh no, Facebook, our Facebook friends. Okay. We'll continue on though to part 2 for today's lesson. So part 2 for today's lesson. I'll continue on to invitations, offers, and requests and preferences. There's so much to talk about here. So if you have not already, please do make sure to like and share the video so that other learners can find today's lesson. Okay, so let's go to this part. I want to start part 2 today by talking about invitations, offers, and requests. I'm going to cover patterns you can use to make each of these kinds of sentences. So the first pattern is would you, would you. So would you begins all of these types of sentence. So let's take a look. First, let's look at some request patterns. So a request, it's when you want someone to do something for you, or you want an object, you want an item, or you want a service or something. So, for example, would you come over here, please? Would you come over here, please? So that's a request for someone to join you, maybe from another part of the room. Would you come over here, please? Yes, many of you ask, what's the difference between like could and would in this situation? They have the same meaning, really, like they accomplish the same goal. Could you come over here, please? And would you come over here, please? They have the same goal, really. So the same level of politeness as well. Could expresses possibility, whereas would is more like a gentle way like to push someone to do something. Could is more like just, is it possible for you to come over here? For a request like this, you can choose whichever you prefer. Would you come over here, please? Is a request. Another request. Would you please close the window? Would you please close the window? So here, you'll notice please can take different positions in your requests. So would you come over here, please, is great. Please at the end of the question. Or would you please close the window? Here, please comes before the verb. Both are totally fine. You can choose whichever you prefer. So like, would you please come over here? Great. It's up to you to choose the sentence you like. So they mean the same thing. They have the same nuance. It's just a personal preference thing. Okay, then this next one is an offer. An offer. Would you like dessert? Would you like dessert? So this is a very common pattern. This would you like pattern is common for making offers. So would you like something to eat? Would you like some dessert? Would you like a new iPad? So whatever. If you want to make an offer of some kind, you can use this would you like with the noun phrase that you're offering. Would you like this thing? So this is a very easy to remember offer pattern. Please note this would you like begins the offer. Similarly then, when we make invitations, we also begin this with would you like, would you like. However, we make the invitations by including a verb in the infinitive form here. Would you like to come to the exhibition? So this is a very polite invitation to do something. Would you like to come to the exhibition? It's like a very gentle and very friendly way to invite someone to something. Would you like to come to the exhibition? So again, making an offer here, we're using would you like noun phrase. Would you like this thing? When we're making this invitation, we're saying would you like infinitive verb. Would you like to come? Would you like to go? Would you like to eat? Would you like to watch? And so on. So offers and invitations have similar patterns, but they have slightly different applications. So Soo-young Jang, sorry if I said that incorrectly, on the YouTube chat says, would you like movie? So would you like a movie? That means you are offering someone a movie. Like maybe you have a DVD. Like, would you like this movie? So you're offering someone a movie in that case. If you want to invite someone to do something with you, would you like to watch a movie? So that's an invitation to do something. So keep in mind, would you like a movie? You're giving someone something. Would you like to watch a movie? Is an invitation to do something. So please be careful. Noun or infinitive verb makes a difference here. Okay, onward. Let's go to expressing preferences, part B for this point. Part B, expressing preferences. I have two patterns I want to talk about here with would. They are subject and would like. Subject, would like. So yes, please keep in mind this pattern uses would like as we practiced here. But in these sentences, in these questions rather, they begin. So would you begins the sentence. Would you like begins the sentence. Here, when you're expressing your preferences, like the thing you like or the thing you don't like, we have subject first and then would like. So, for example, I would like a salad, please. This is a very useful expression for a restaurant or a cafe. I would like noun phrase, please. I would like a salad, please. I would like a beer, please. I would like a steak, please. So this is something you can use to express what you want, your preference. I want this thing. Also, with a different subject, she would like you to prepare a presentation. She would like you to prepare a presentation. This sentence means the she in this situation, this woman, she wants, in other words, she wants you. She would like you to prepare a presentation. So this is like a very polite, indirect way to say, please prepare a presentation. She wants you to prepare a presentation. So this is a pattern you can use to express a preference, something you desire, something you want. Finally here is this pattern, subject would rather. Subject would rather. So we use this when we want to kind of compare two options. Let's look at an example. Person A suggests, why don't we go to a French place for dinner? Why don't we go to a French place for dinner? And person B says, I would rather go to an Italian place. I would rather go to an Italian place means I prefer an Italian place instead of the French place that you recommended. I would rather go to an Italian place. So this would rather means instead of this, more than the thing you suggested. So would rather is used to reply to suggestions. I would rather do something else. I would rather eat something else. So would rather is like a comparison, a way to compare two options. Okie dokie. Then time is almost running. Oh man, we're almost out of time. So I'll go quickly to the last point for today's lesson. The last point for today's lesson, number 3, is about using would and will. I covered the second conditional in the beginning of today's lesson. So I want to talk about the differences between these two. So key here is these two example sentences. These example sentences are both correct, and totally fine to use, but they have different meanings. Let's discuss. Sentence 1 here is, if I lose my job, I'll find a new one. If I lose my job, I'll find a new one. Sentence 2, if I lost my job, I would find a new one. If I lost my job, I would find a new one. So sentence 2 here uses the second conditional that we started today's lesson by talking about. Yeah, this is the second conditional. So remember, the second conditional expresses an unreal situation in the present, something that is not true now, and there's a low chance of it happening. Here, however, number 1, if I lose my job, I'll find a new one. This sentence means it's an actual present situation. This is a real possible situation. So in sentence number 1, maybe the speaker has a job review, or there was a problem at the company, or the company has to cut money, has to cut budgets or something. The speaker says, if I lose my job, I'll find a new one. So this sounds like it's something that's real. It's something that's possible. There's a chance the speaker will lose their job. So they're talking about their plans. Sentence 2, however, is an unreal present situation. So there's no danger of the speaker losing their job now. They just want to imagine the situation. So if I lost my job, I would find a new one. So I have no danger of losing my job. So again, both of these sentences are totally 100% correct, but the use of the sentence really matters. So this first sentence expresses there's a chance of that happening right now. So this is something to practice, a good grammar reminder, I think, to practice for this point. So if you want to practice this, you can send a comment live, or if you're watching this later, with what would you do if you found a wallet full of money on the street? What would you do if you found a wallet full of money on the street? So you can use the earlier pattern from part 1 today to make this sentence. So, for example, if I found a wallet full of money on the street, I would take the wallet to the police. So you can use a would pattern with if, an if would pattern to express your plan for the situation. And in this case, using a would pattern is best because it's not a real present situation now. There's probably a low chance we're going to find a wallet on the street. So that's a good one to practice with. But Hector says, what about using would to express something we used to do in the past? Yes, we have a live stream about that, actually. Today we're talking about would for the future. So, yes, we do have a live stream about using would and used to for the past. You can check that on the English Class 101 YouTube channel if you want. Mary says, if I found a wallet, I would turn it over. Turn it over means give it to someone. Give someone something that does not belong to you. I would turn it over to the police, maybe. Alrighty, we are out of time. So I'll wrap up today's lesson. I hope that this was helpful. I know it was a lot of grammar and there was a lot to cover here, but I hope that it helps you use would to talk about the future and to make offers and requests and things. So we'll end there, but we will be back next week. Next week, November 14th. Wow, this year is going so quickly. Also, there's been a time change due to daylight saving, so now it is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday evening, or other times, depending on your time in the world. Our topic for next week will be how to describe people. How to describe people. If you watched our live stream 2 or 3 weeks ago, I talked about relative clauses, how to give details with relative clauses. I'm going to review this grammar point in next week's lesson, how to describe people. We're going to talk about relative clauses again. So if you want to review for next week's live stream, so you're ready in the chat, please check out the how to explain in detail or how to give details with relative clauses live stream from, I believe, 2 weeks ago. So check that out. Join us next week. It will be good and fun, and we'll have lots of opportunities. I will step aside for a brief moment so you can take a screenshot. Boom. There you go. For today's lesson. Enjoy the rest of your week. Please don't forget to download all of the free PDFs that are on our website. You can find all of these things from the link below the video on YouTube. If this ever goes up on Facebook, there will be a link on Facebook. If you're watching on Instagram, please check the link on YouTube to get these things. So enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you again soon. Thanks so much for liking the video and sharing the video. We really, really appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.